Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're heading into, well, the deep woods of Pictou County, Nova Scotia. We're looking at a really baffling cold case, the disappearance of Lilly Sullivan, who was 6, and her brother Jack, just 4. They vanished from their home way out on Gairloch Road back on May 2nd, 2025. Now, the sources you've brought call this case an anomaly, even unprecedented. So what exactly makes it so different?
Yeah, that's what we need to unpack. Criminologists like Michael Arntfield, for instance, use terms like unprecedented because it's such a paradox, really. You have 2 very young children, and they just disappear without a single trace left behind. Usually with kids that age, you'd expect something, a boot print, maybe a dropped toy, a clear path. This complete lack of any physical evidence is highly unusual, and it forces investigators to think very differently.
That idea of a complete void. It's really unsettling, isn't it? So, okay, let's walk through the official story from that morning. You've got Lily and Jack, their mom, Malaya Brooks-Murray, stepdad, Daniel Martell, and a baby sister. And the step-grandmother, Janie McKenzie, she was nearby in a camper. Martell says he saw Lily, heard Jack playing, and then, as McKenzie put it, she just heard nothing. Silence.
Right. And that sudden quiet is what apparently alerted Martell. He searched, couldn't find them. Eventually, the children's mother called 911, that was around 10 a.m., reporting them missing.
Okay, but here's a key point you flagged. No one outside the immediate family had actually seen the kids since the afternoon before, May 1st. The last independent sighting was CCTV footage in New Glasgow.
Exactly. And that creates what investigators sometimes call a narrative bottleneck. It means all the initial crucial information about those last hours comes from, well, essentially one source. There's no immediate way to verify it independently.
How much does a gap like that, almost 48 hours with no outside confirmation, how much does that hamstring an investigation right from the start? It feels like you're playing catch-up immediately.
Oh, absolutely. In missing persons cases, especially with children, those first hours are critical. Golden hours, they call them. A delay like that means investigators are trying to piece things together much later, without fresh trails or witnesses. And frankly, it does raise the level of scrutiny on the initial accounts. So given that bottleneck, once the alarm was raised, the response was huge, wasn't it?
Massive.
Yeah,
the initial search was immense. Hundreds of trained searchers, dogs, drones, helicopters. They covered a 4-square-kilometer area, really tough terrain, thick woods, steep banks. But after 6 intense days, nothing. Absolutely zero. No boot, no scrap of cloth, not one footprint. Criminologist Michelle Genis mentioned this is like quiet disappearances you see with adults sometimes, but for young kids. A huge anomaly.
and think about it, that difficult terrain. It should make it harder for kids to vanish without a trace, not easier. They'd likely get stuck, leave signs. The fact that this massive professional search found literally nothing, well, it strongly suggests they probably didn't just wander off. It points towards, more complex situation, maybe human intervention, like Arntfield suggested. Maybe precious time was spent searching fields for kids who perhaps weren't even there to be found at that point.
That thought, that they might not have been there during the search.
Yeah.
That's deeply chilling. It changes how you see that whole initial effort. And you mentioned the family dynamic started to change under all this pressure.
Yes. Reports indicate the mother, Malaya, left the property with the baby sister, apparently on police advice. And she reportedly cut off contact with the stepfather, Martell. He stayed, cooperated with police, and even said publicly he took and passed a polygraph. Then you had the children's paternal grandmother, Belinda Gray, publicly calling for inquiries into Child Protective Services, into the RCMP's handling. She even brought up questions about prior welfare checks and alleged bruises.
So it became almost 2 investigations running side by side. The police looking for the kids, and this public questioning of the system and the family history.
Sort of, yeah. The RCMP, understandably, has stayed pretty tight-lipped officially. They have to protect the integrity of the investigation. But this lack of information, as Arntfield points out, can create a vacuum. It invites speculation, maybe even uses up resources chasing down rumors. They've processed a lot, over 700 tips, 60 interviews, thousands of video files, seized electronics. But the only piece of potential evidence they've publicly confirmed finding near the home is Lily's pink blanket. And its actual significance, they haven't said.
So in the middle of all this official silence and uncertainty, what's happening on the ground in the community?
Well, the community response in Pictou County has been really quite powerful in its own quiet way. A local guy, Kent Corbett, started this Pictou County's Children Now campaign. Simple lawn signs with Lily and Jack's faces.
I've seen pictures. They seem to be everywhere.
They really are. It's a visible, constant reminder, a public plea for answers. And it connects to something Dr. Pauline Boss talks about, this concept of ambiguous loss. That's the unique kind of pain when a loss isn't clear-cut. There's no resolution, no closure. Families, whole communities are left in limbo. These signs, the fundraising, they become ways for the community to cope, to show solidarity, to maintain hope against that uncertainty.
Yeah, it's a community trying to hold on to hope in the face of, well, silence from those woods near Lansdowne Station. But, science does keep advancing. Things like digital forensics, investigative genetic genealogy, they've cracked incredibly cold cases recently, like Christine Jessup's or Sharon Pryor's. So there's that, and there's the power of people just not forgetting. Collective memory.
Absolutely. And maybe that leaves you, the listener, with something to think about. What role do we all play in keeping these stories alive? Especially when investigations hit these kinds of dead ends, these information vacuums, how do we help maintain that pressure, that hope?
It's an important question. And just a reminder, if you have any concrete information about where Lilly and Jack Sullivan might be, please reach out. Contact the Northeast Nova RCMP Major Crime Unit at 902-896-5060. Or you can call Nova Scotia Crime Stoppers anonymously at 1-800-222-CASH-TAIPS. That's 8477.